Good morning and welcome to week 5 of a 6-part series of statewide Job Club presentations. My name is Art Larson and I'm a Job Service Manager with the state of Minnesota. Today's topic is networking, the first 30 seconds. This presentation is one of many offered through the CareerForce Virtual and Interactive Services Program. I will be sending everyone information on how to access additional opportunities within this service at the end of today's presentation. Before we get going, I'd like to take a few moments to let you know how you can interact with your presenter and other participants today. Due to the large number of people, everyone's mic has been muted, but you can ask questions through the chat function. If you hover over the bottom of your screen, you can click on the call out button to activate your chat panel. If you don't mind everyone seeing your question or comment, you can choose to send it to all participants. Please don't use the all attendees option. But you can also have the option of sending your questions privately to either of the listed panelists or to both by using all panelists. To get us started, please choose the all participants option and enter your name and where you are from into the chat box. While you're doing that, it is my pleasure to introduce today's presenter. When she was little, Catherine Byers dreamed of becoming two things, a wild animal photographer in Africa or Barbra Streisand. When neither of these came true, she became a recruiter and immediately fell in love with the job. 22 years later, she runs a company called Arbez, which is zebra spelled backwards. At Arbez, Catherine teaches people how to change their stripes and do what they love for a living. She has helped over 80,000, I believe that's 100,000 people now, all over the world to get more money, more freedom, and more fun out of work. For the past 10 years, she's been a crowd favorite at CareerForce centers all over Minnesota. Today, she's here to talk about how to effectively start to network. Catherine, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a little slow on the buttons this morning. It feels a lot like a Monday. Good morning, and thank you for joining us for, as Art said, this is the 5th week in a 6-part series. So networking, the first 30 seconds. Boy, I got to tell you, I have had so many embarrassing situations over the years. Mostly back in the beginning. I was a rookie recruiter and I was terrible on the phones. I was getting hung up on. People were not interested in talking to me about jobs. Can you imagine? Do you remember those days? Anyway, and I was basically about to get fired. Yep. Terrible, terrible. And so my boss, thank goodness, didn't want to throw me out quite yet. And she said, "You stink at the phones. Maybe you'll be a little bit better at networking." And I said, "What is that?" And she said, "You'll figure it out." And she kicked me out of the office and sent me off to a couple of networking groups. And I did eventually figure it out. And I've come in the last 22 years to absolutely love meeting new people, reconnecting with old. And I have single-handedly fed my family, survived and thrived as a recruiter, director of recruiting, salesperson, and built my business in the last 14 years through networking. But that's because I figured out how to handle those first 30 seconds. It's that moment when you smile at somebody right now over LinkedIn or Facebook, and you're starting to say something and you don't know what to say. And you either get stuck at go or you get stumped by what they ask you. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But for whatever reason, you just can't get out of the starting gate. And the conversation falls flat and it was a waste of your time. And you come to me frustrated because networking isn't working. Well, today is the day we're going to turn all that around with you. I am going to teach you what I've learned in the last 22 years, not only to feed my own family and get that next job. As a small business owner, I am hunting for my next client every single day. So I'm living this every single day. I've tested everything I'm going to teach you. And as Art said, I have taught over 100,000 people from Minneapolis to China and South Africa how to do this stuff. I do want to talk to you today. So it's really fun to see where you're from. We've got everything from Brainerd, Burnsville, Duluth. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to stop periodically and take your questions, but the bulk of the Q&A is going to be at the end of the hour. We're going to wrap up the webinar for those of you that have to leave, and then I will stop and take questions for another 15 minutes. So jot them down, send them in the comments section. Excited to have you here today. So that first 30 seconds, it's that moment when, again, you meet somebody for the first time. It's that first message that comes through on LinkedIn or Facebook. or when you're over the phone or even chatting with some people here, it's that first, who are you? And what do you do and what do you mean to me in my life? So I want to share a couple of my favorite responses to the question. So what do you do? Or tell me about yourself. The first one was somebody by the name of D. So it was 5 a.m. and I was at the gym doing an exercise class where we were doing weightlifting and we were doing a little bit of aerobics. And I was half awake. I was tired. I was sweating. And I wasn't really my best version of myself. But at some point, we stopped to take a drink of water. And I turned to the woman next to me and said, "Good morning. You're a bundle of energy." And she said, "Absolutely." And then she asked me, "So what do you do for work? Are you going to work after this?" And I said, "Yes, I am. I help people get their dream job." And she said, "Wow. Well, you want to know what I do? I catch babies for a living." 5 a.m. in the morning, and I almost spit my water out. What a wonderful, fun way to introduce yourself. Now, in the comments, what do you think that she does for a living? By the way, her name is Dee. She's deep into her 60s, doesn't want to retire because she absolutely loves catching babies for a living. What do you think her job title is? Delivery nurse? Yes, very good question. OBGYN nurse, doctor, midwife, doula, midwife, doula. Interesting that all of you think she's not a doctor and oh, we saw a couple of OBGYNs. Anyway, as it turns out, she is a nurse and she does catch babies for a living. Now I know the doc comes running in to save the day and actually delivers the baby, but she's been an OBGYN nurse her entire career. She absolutely loves it. But instead of saying, "I'm an OBGYN nurse," she says, "I catch babies for a living." That was about 4 years ago, and I don't think I'll ever forget Dee. That's the kind of impression she made on me. And instead of grunting and going back to working out, I just wanted to talk to her for the next half hour. That is the power of a great personal introduction. I got so many more up my sleeves. I'm going to share a couple of my favorite, most memorable. The next guy is somebody that I met on a beach in Cozumel. I was on vacation with my kids, sipping on a margarita, not thinking about work. Our children had been playing together in the ocean, building sand castles for probably 3 days when we finally got to the question of, what do you do for a living? And this guy said to me, "I'm a heart attack preventer." What do you think he does for a living? What could he possibly do for a living that he introduces himself as a heart attack preventer? Yes, he could be an EMT, a nutritionist, EMT, fitness trainer, absolutely. Cardiologist, yes. Nutritionist, um, building pacemakers, cardiologist, first responder. Yes, so you're all thinking medical. What about other things? Is there anything outside of the medical field that he could be doing to say that he's a heart attack preventer? He could make aspirin. He could be a therapist. Yes, yoga, dietitian, personal trainer, stress coach. Yes. What about a professional speaker on stress? What about a professor studying stress? What about selling CBD oils, an educator? What about a pastor, a minister? He actually could do a lot of different things for a living. He could be a financial planner. Yes, in all seriousness, he could be a financial planner in this market, especially. As it turns out, it's a little less exciting than creative things like that. He is, in fact, a cardiologist. And when I laughed and said, "Tell me more," he said, "Well, I clean out people's plumbing so their hearts can run like new." As it turns out, he is a cardiologist. But in the comments, why is this so much better as a personal introduction than, "I'm a cardiologist"? What do you think is different about that opening conversation when he says, "I'm a heart attack preventer," versus when he says, "I'm a doctor, or I'm a cardiologist"? He gets you interested, you want more information, and he's humble and he's memorable. You know, so often, if you just tell people what your job title is, they either don't care or they don't understand and they're embarrassed to tell you that they don't understand. I'll share a story in a little bit. Or they're intimidated. If you say you're a CEO or a cardiologist or a VP, They might be intimidated by your job title, and that can really shut a conversation down. And if you're looking for work right now, if you're a job seeker or a consultant or a freelancer looking for your next project, you cannot afford to have a conversation shut down at the beginning. So today is all about getting past hello and how to turn that hello into your next great job opportunity. I'm going to share one more. Yes, and he's excited to share what he does. All right. I'm going to share one more of my favorite job openers. Now, this one's kind of fun. Speaking of intimidating, I got a phone call one day from a guy who didn't tell me what he did for a living, and I didn't ask because it was a client of mine who referred him to me. Now, I don't normally do one on one coaching. Most of what I do is small group coaching for affordability and accessibility. So I coach freelancers and consultants and job seekers in small groups. But she sent him to me for interview practice. And she said, "You got to hire Catherine." This was the director of a career services division at a business school. And she said, "You got to call Catherine. She's been a headhunter and a recruiter for years. She can prep you for these interviews." Well, because she was a client and I wanted to do new business with her, I thought I probably should take his call. And then he told me that he was interviewing for a chief economist position at one of the largest companies in the world. I had already said yes to interview coaching. And then I asked him, "What do you do for a living and where are you interviewing?" Chief economist at the largest retailer on the planet. And he was flying out to interview with the CEO and the entire executive team, and he needed me to prep him. And I said, "All right, I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m." And then I hung up the phone and I called my husband and I said, "What have I done? What do I know about economics? How am I going to coach this economist to get the chief economist job at the biggest retailer on the planet?" And fortunately, my husband believes in me and he said, "You got this." So I went in and I expected to have to spend the first 10 minutes humbling this wicked smart economist down to a place where he could talk to these executives in a way that was simple, understandable, and engaging. Imagine my delight when a couple of minutes into this interview coaching session, and I said, "So, when somebody off the street asks you what you do for a living, what do you tell them?" And I thought he'd say, "Oh, I'm one of the most famous economists in the world." That is not what he said. He said, "I build crash test dummies for business." I immediately got this visual and I laughed out loud and I said, "You don't need me. My job is done." He understands that telling people he's now the chief economist, and he has been for about 7 years, he got the job for the largest retailer on the planet, instead of telling people that because it alienates them. He says, "I build crash test dummies for business." And when people say, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, when Delta Airlines and Northwest Airlines, Minnesotans, you remember this moment, when Delta and Northwest wanted to merge, he got called by the FTC to find out what would the economic impact be around the world if they let these huge airlines come together as one." He ran the models to test the market. So anyway, those are some of my favorites. Now my question for you is, do any of you have an unforgettable introduction? I bet some of you do. Please, please, please share it with us. You've got a soundbite. You've figured out how to talk about what you do for a living in a way that is simple, really easy to understand, and memorable. Just click the all participants and let us know how you introduce yourself. There's nothing wrong, Susan, with saying you're a massage therapist, a veterinary assistant. Ooh, Patrick keeps the lights on. But the thing about "I keep the lights on" leaves them hungry, gets them leaning into the conversation. Um, Emily's a conservationist for Zoo and Wildlife. Andrew's a computer geek. Um, Shelly is a guy from HRA that shut down as soon as he walked in. I don't know what that is. I'm curious to know more. Brenda gets stuff done for marketing departments, not stuff. Brenda, good morning. You and I teamed up for the first time during the Great Recession. I think it was 12 years ago. You're still one of my favorite stories. because you got laid off in the depths of the recession and you thought, I'm never going to get a job. And you stood up and you went out there. And I think you got multiple offers. I definitely remember that you negotiated a higher salary when unemployment was high and everybody was telling you can't do it. So, so nice to see you this morning. Steven's a people pleaser. Do you see this? And Lance just came up with this. He makes a box of rocks do tricks. I want to know more. Amber, one of her dislocated workers, called her a flashlight in the darkness, so she uses that now. And Amber, welcome from Brainerd. She is with Career Force and she's a career counselor up there in the Brainerd Lakes area. Andrea makes things dirty and then she cleans them. All right, keep on chatting. You guys can get ideas from all the people out there. This is what I'm here for today. I want to help you get a bumper sticker. So many people who are looking for work come to me and say, networking doesn't work. It's a waste of time. I'm just going to go back to applying for jobs online. And when I spend just 10, 15 minutes with them and I start to peel back the layers and ask them about their networking efforts, and I say, so when you're talking to somebody for the first time on LinkedIn, what do you say? When you talk to them over the phone, when we get out of shutdown and you're meeting people in the street or in the grocery store and they ask you, what do? How do you answer it? And 9 times out of 10, when networking isn't working for people, it's because of how they're introducing themselves. So today, we're going to talk about, does it really matter what you say? And I think we're already illustrating that. Number 2, the 2 most common questions you get as a job seeker and a freelancer and a consultant, and why you got to figure out how to answer them. Number 3, I'm going to rip back the covers and I'm going to tell you the truth about what people really want to know about you, but will never ask. Because if you understand the 2 things they really want to know about you, you can craft a personal introduction like so many of you already have that absolutely hits the mark and answers those 2 questions without them even asking. Because if you don't answer their 2 burning questions, which they're never going to ask you, if you don't answer those, you're going to shut them down. They're going to walk away. They're not going to be interested in talking to you. So we're going to talk about that. And then for those of you that don't yet have a really fun intro like Robin, who herds cats and counts beans, and Sherry, who helps you go places, look at you guys. Have you all been on this webinar with me before? Such a talented group today. A business operations plumber, Eric has to say. I'm going to help you craft an unforgettable introduction if you don't have one. And if you do, maybe tighten it up a little bit and learn how to make it flexible depending on who you're talking to. I'll wrap things up today with the best kept networking secret. It took me years to figure this out. And the day I did, everything changed. I can't wait to share it with you. All right. So first section. Who cares? Does it really matter? Do you really have to talk to strangers? Yeah, you do. If you need a job and you want a job or that next client right now, you got to start talking to more people. You've got to get over this personal introduction hurdle. It is going to pay off in spades. Let's talk about why. Just really quickly, not to freak you out, but actually to acknowledge your level of frustration. If you've been applying for jobs online and you're not getting interviews and you're not getting job offers, this is why. You have a 12% chance of getting a job when you apply online. Now, you can boost that to about a 20% chance if you go to Career Force virtual online job club and go watch the replay. I did a talk on 5/12 on May 12th on how to stop getting rejected online. You absolutely can boost your chances if you work a little bit smarter before you apply online. So go watch that. It'll help you. But 20% versus networking. If you network to find the hidden jobs, to get introduced to the hiring managers and even the recruiters, you can get hired 55% faster. That's twice as fast. 29 days to a new job versus 55 days, according to Silk Road Technology. More stats. Look, I see Sarah is totally fired up. She says, "Oh my goodness, I love everybody's statements. She needs to get her one." And you've come to the right place. Alan saves starfish. I want to meet all of you. In fact, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn so you hear about I do free daily live streams right now, at least until we're all out of our house. Free daily live streams for career consulting and job search. I'm posting about the next job online. I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to help you network. And I want to learn more about your 10-second pitches. Jackie, you go watch that. Look at that. Art is telling you exactly where you can go for previous job club links. And this one will be out there by Thursday afternoon so you can share it with your friends. Please share this with your friends, you guys. CareerForce is working so hard to create new resources to put together to, take good stuff, put it online. There are resume webinars, interviewing webinars. They're doing hiring events online. There are hungry employers who can't wait to meet you. And the resources online through CareerForce are off the hook. So follow Art's link, get on out there, watch the recordings, but don't stop there. All right. So stats, 12% applying online, 19, don't ignore recruiters. When you hook a recruiter and you're a good fit for an opportunity, they can dramatically boost your chances of getting hired. But look what happens when you go in by referral. You get referred in through networking, you have a 40% chance of getting hired. And if you get referred in through networking to the director level or above, you have a 92% chance of getting a job offer. Whoa. You want to know how powerful that is? Faith got laid off 3 times in about 5 years. And the first time she got laid off, it took her 6 months. The second time she got laid off, it took her 7 months. And the third time, it only took her 3.5 weeks because she did what I'm teaching you guys today. She used my approach to job search and networking. Do you guys want to wait 7 months to find a job? No. It's uncomfortable. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to be embarrassed. And psst, so is everybody else out there. I still embarrass myself occasionally. I really do. We're human. Forgive yourself. Stand up, laugh about it, and move back on. In the words of the founder of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman said, "Your network is the people who want to help you, and you want to help them, and that is really powerful." But if you can't get past the 30 seconds, and Jackie, it really hurts to get rejected. Ugh. Yeah. Go watch my replay if you haven't seen it of the Stop Getting Rejected. I actually do a lot in that webinar to help you figure out how to handle rejection. So again, take that link that Art gave you, go watch that replay, pour yourself a nice cup of coffee and watch it. It's worth it, not only to learn about how to apply online, but how to deal emotionally with rejection during job loss. Because you know what? You're gonna get rejected. You're gonna get rejected. And the sooner you say, there's another one, I'm getting closer to a yes. If you can learn how to deal with that rejection, because it stings. I hate rejection. And I have to tell you, I almost failed and got fired as a recruiter because I was so afraid of being rejected. You can get over it. Proof's in the pudding right here. You can do it. But it hurts. I know, I get it. All right, so a better opening line is going to help you reduce a lot of the rejection or ignoring on LinkedIn and through your networking efforts. So here's the deal. Before I teach you how to get a really sassy, great introduction, I want to talk to you about what other people want to know about you. When you meet somebody for the first time as a job seeker, you need to do 3 things in the first 10 seconds. I invited you to come and I said the first 30 seconds, but let's be honest, you don't really have 30 seconds. If you haven't intrigued them in the first 10 seconds, they might be looking at you and smiling, but they are shut off. So what do you got to do in 10 seconds? Find something in common with them. Number 1, if you can do it, and don't get overwhelmed, the more you try this, the easier it gets. Number 1, Find common ground, something you have in common with them. And on LinkedIn, it is so easy. If you missed our job club last week with Art and Jazani, go watch the replay of that because we teach you how to use LinkedIn. And it is so easy to use LinkedIn to find common ground. Maybe you're both from Minnesota, chances are good. Maybe you both went to the University of Minnesota. Maybe you both live in Duluth. Maybe you both live in Brainerd. Maybe you have 89 mutual connections. Maybe you have what do you want to know how many connect? I did a live stream with Harry Urschel this morning from Crossroads Career Network, a job club in town. He and I have you want to know how many mutual connections do you think that Harry and I have on LinkedIn? Talk about common ground. Harry and I have both been in recruiting for over 20 years. We both run job clubs in the Twin Cities Metro. How many mutual connections on LinkedIn do you think Harry and I have? 2000 Randolph says 800, 150, 3500. I can tell. Hi, Jansen. 35. I can tell who the heavy hitting LinkedIn players are. We have 1,081 mutual connections. That means Harry and I both have first level connections in common 1,081 times. Yeah. So, anyway, all right. So, common ground on LinkedIn, it's easy. Number two, if they can understand what you do for a living, you're really ahead of your competition because then they might remember you. And see, networking isn't just about that first conversation. In fact, it's rarely about that first conversation. It's about connecting, getting somebody interested enough in staying connected with you, sending them an article, saying hello, letting them see you visibly on LinkedIn, whatever it is. It's multiple touch points so that 2 weeks from now, when they hear about a job opening for a call center, they remember you and they reach out and say, Joan, I've got a call center opportunity for you. Are you interested? My buddy is hiring. That is what a great 10-second introduction can do for you. And here's why this is so important. There's no point going anywhere if people don't remember that you were there. Ouch. The first time I read this quote by Patricia, I didn't like it. I thought, well, that's rude. But dag nabbit, she's onto something. I used to go to networking events and association events and industry trade shows, and I'd collect business cards. And I thought, wow, I met so many people today. Whew, I'm exhausted, and isn't that great? Well, one day I came home so proud, and I showed my husband this stack of about 30 business cards, and he said, let me see those. And he said, so tell me about Tom Jones. Well, I don't know. What does his card say? Tell me about Benita. I don't know. Tell me about Tanya. I couldn't tell him about any of the people because A, I was zooming around meeting people, not really getting to know them. And number two, I had a terrible personal introduction and so did they. We didn't really get to know each other. Nothing memorable. I had scratched some notes on the back of some of the business cards, but I really couldn't tell him anything. So I know it stings, but Patricia Fripp, bless you for telling us this because you're right. All right, let me give you an example. Okay, so Paul's got a question, and I get this all the time about LinkedIn. There are two different ways to approach LinkedIn. He wants to know, out of our 1,000 mutual connections, how many of those do you truly know personally? Well, 1,000 of them are not my best friends, but 1,000 of them are people that I have spoken to personally, either face to face, over the phone, or on LinkedIn. When I joined LinkedIn 15 years ago, I made a decision that I didn't want to connect with a bunch of strangers. If somebody reached out and wanted to connect with me, I wanted to know, what do we have in common? Why do they want to tap my network? And so if a stranger reaches out to me, before I accept their introduction, I reach back and say, hi, thank you so much, Jerome. Nice to hear from you. How can I help? So I push it back on Jerome to give me a reason to connect with him. Most people ignore me at that point and I don't connect with them. But sometimes people come back and say, oh, hey, we're both friends with Harry Urschel. He said I should talk to you about your consulting program or whatever it is. So personally, yes, I have almost 9,000 connections. And I can tell you, over 15 years, I have had a personal conversation with every single one of them. Now, do I know them? Can I tell you how many kids they have? No, but that's okay. The beauty of LinkedIn is that I meet people from all over the world and we help each other with our careers, with our business, sometimes with our family situations. All right. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about for job seekers. So Steve was unemployed during the last recession in New York City. And I should check in on him and see how he's doing right now, huh? He reached out to me from New York City. He saw one of my videos or webinars or something, and he said, "I really need your help. I've been unemployed for over 6 months, and nobody wants to hire me because I'm too old." And I took a deep breath, and I didn't criticize him for assuming that because I understand. He was in his 60s, and there is age discrimination out there, but I suspected there was something else going on. By the way, if you're concerned about age discrimination, mark your calendar and register for next Tuesday, June 2nd. We're doing 2 job clubs on ageism in the job search through CareerForce. Go to the virtual and interactive services and you can register right now. And that one is going to sell out. So please register today, either the 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. And please invite your friends. There are so many people like Steve right now, over 40, 50, 60, even 70, who need a job, and they are convinced nobody wants them because of their age. Please join us next week so I can help shift that attitude and give you some really tactical strategies to break through it. So here was Steve, convinced that nobody wanted to hire him because of his age. So I spent some time with him and I said, let's kind of peel back that onion. Tell me what you've been doing. And I said, well, and he said, networking is a waste of time, just an absolute waste. And I said, okay, so tell me what you've been saying to people. And he said, well, I'm a supply chain distribution manager. In the comments, do any of you know what a supply chain distribution manager does for a living? Now, you might know because of the toilet paper situation when COVID-19 broke out. But I can tell you, prior to the toilet paper shortage, very few people knew what the supply chain is. Supply chain distribution managers are in charge of making sure that the product gets from the manufacturer, that the car gets from the manufacturer to your driveway. The supply chain is all of the bits and pieces that have to go into making the toilet paper, getting them on the shelves. So that's what a supply chain distribution manager does. The problem is most people have never heard that term. They're too embarrassed to say it, and they don't really care. So when Steve said, I'm a supply chain distribution manager, most people said, boring. And they were looking for an escape route. They didn't want to learn anything more about him. So I spent about 5 minutes talking to him. And I said, so I know what supply chain is. What kind of supplies, what kind of products and services have you been delivering? He said, oh, perishable foods. And I said, so you're the guy that gets my ice cream to my table cold and fresh. And he said, yeah, in fact, I've spent most of my career in dairy, but I can't tell people that because if I tell people that, they won't come to me with jobs in any other supply chain areas. And I said, that's not true. What's most important is getting over that initial hurdle so that they understand what you do. They're intrigued. They remember you. And I promise you, if you get nichey and you tell somebody I get ice cream to your table cold and fresh, I promise you, they will think of you when they hear about getting tractors to market. They'll be able to make that leap. But if they don't understand what you do and they don't care about it and they can't connect it to their lives, they're definitely not going to remember you 2 weeks from now when they hear about a supply chain job. So he didn't like this at all, you guys. He was a grown man. He had a huge track record of success. And he said, he literally crossed his arms at me. We were on camera on Skype and he said, I am not introducing myself as the ice cream man. And I said, how long have you been unemployed? And he said, 6 months. And I said, how badly do you want a job? Badly. I said, 1 week. I'm just asking you to try this for 1 week. He called me 3 days later and said, I am absolutely blown away. You're absolutely right. I'm having so much fun and I'm getting leads on jobs. And guess who had a job 4 weeks later? Crazy, crazy. All right. So that was fun. He got a job 4 weeks later as a supply chain manager. One more story along the power of this, and then we're going to get into the meat of this. Stephanie had been unemployed for 9 months. Now she had a different problem. She was introducing herself with four job titles. So at least Steve was just using one job title. Stephanie was saying, "Oh, I'm an HR operations analyst. I'm also a program and office manager. I've done recruitment operations. And by the way, I've also done training and development. Do you know of any jobs for me?" Well, at that point, people are completely overwhelmed and they think, no. And something else happens that they're never going to tell you. They're afraid to introduce you for a job opportunity in any of those categories because they're wondering, well, which one do you really want? What if I send you a job lead and you're not interested? What if I introduce you to a friend of mine who's hiring for office management and you don't show up for the interview because you don't really want that job? Those are the things that happen when you throw too much stuff at people, but they're never going to say it to you. They're too polite. So I said, "Stephanie, I'm a recruiter. I used to be. So I believe you that you can do every single one of those jobs, but do me a favor. Don't ever dump the kitchen sink on anybody ever again." It took her about 2 minutes to spit all this stuff out at me. I said, "You cannot do that. You need to go home and figure out which job you really want most." "But I'll do anything." I said, "I know you will. You, by all means, you can chase opportunities in all four of those jobs. But when you're introducing yourself, you have to pick one because this is really hurting you. So go home and figure out what job you really, really want." She did. And she decided HR operations was what she really wanted to do. And 3 weeks later, she got a job at a highly coveted, huge health insurance company in HR operations, making more money than she'd ever made. 3 weeks later, after 9 months of not getting job offers. All right, I see your questions coming through again at the top of the hour. So at 11 a.m., I'm going to stop and take your questions. So hold on to them. I got to move through the content for people that need to leave at 11 a.m. I love the questions. Keep them coming. I'll get to as many as I can. All right. So what are the most common questions when you meet somebody for the first time online or in person? You tell me, what do they want to know about you? And this is particularly annoying when you are looking for work. What do you do? What do you do? Yes. Yes. Yep. What can you do? What do you do? Why should I care? Alex, yes. Alex, welcome. Good morning. One of my fellow recruiters. He understands exactly what people are looking for. Here are the most common questions that people in America, anyway. It's not the same in other countries. Did you know that? In America, we want to know about your job right out of the gate. And that's hard when you're looking for jobs. So the two most popular questions are, what do you do? And tell me about yourself. And if you're not ready to answer them, you guys, you can absolutely shut down a conversation. Let me quickly tell you bad responses. And I hear these every day from job seekers. When somebody says, what do? You do not want to answer it with, "I'm unemployed." Please don't say that. Please don't say that. You're going to freak people out on the other side. They're going to feel badly. And even if they're nice people who want to help you, they're going to get overwhelmed and run away because they're uncomfortable. They feel bad for you and they don't know what to do. That is not where you want a conversation to go. Plus, you're in between paychecks right now. That's not what you do. Is a teacher still a teacher in the middle of the summer? Is a call center operator who takes 3 months off on maternity leave not a call center operator? Is a cardiologist when he's on vacation in Mexico? Yes, yes, yes. You are just as smart and talented today as you were when you were working, if you're unemployed. Okay, so please don't lead with that. I promise you'll get to it. Don't open with that. Also, please don't say it's not worth talking about. If you're joining us today, and 25% of you are joining us today, you're working, but you don't like your job or you're underemployed. When somebody says, "What do you do for a living?" If you hate your job, please don't say, "Nothing worth talking about," or "I hate my job." It's a negative way to start a conversation. And please don't ramble on for 5 minutes about what you do for work. Whether you love it or hate it, nobody has the attention span for 5 minutes. So on here, guys, I made all of these mistakes. I've been whacked. I got laid off. I was in my dream job as a director of recruiting at a global consulting firm, and I got whacked after the dot-com bubble burst. And I found myself saying that I was unemployed. And my husband elbowed me hard in the ribs and said, "What did you just say?" Don't lead with that. When somebody asks you to tell them about yourself, please don't say, "I don't know," or "I'm just a." Somebody this morning on my live stream said, "I'm just a call center rep." You're not just a call center rep. If you are a call center rep, you are the first friendly voice that somebody gets on the phone when their roof blew off in a tornado, or when they have a medical concern, or when their technology doesn't work. Call center folks are really important. You're not just anything. Please don't be intimidated by big titles and laugh fancy coats and suits and ties. You are valuable in whatever work you do. Stocking shelves, very important, critical to every single one of us right now. So don't say, "I don't know," or "I'm just and please don't lead with, "I hate networking," or "I'm unemployed," or the 5 minute dissertation. All right. You guys are out there networking. What else has somebody said to you in the last couple of days or weeks that made you think, "Ugh"? What are some responses that innocent, well-intentioned people did that made you go, "Blah"? How about the hard sales pitch? I'm getting that so much right now. If one more person reaches out to connect with me on LinkedIn and they lead with, "I help companies make money. I help with lead gen." And when I have time, which is not very often, I respond back and I say, "Hello, good morning. I hope you and your family are doing well right now." I don't like the aggressive sit. Don't start out by pitching me. You have no idea. And by the way, I don't need your help growing my business right now. And I'm certainly not going to hire somebody who's that aggressive. Because if you're that aggressive with me, you're going to be that aggressive with my target market. And I don't want to be that aggressive with my clients. So, anyway, all right, I don't like aggressive sales pitches. Somebody said, "I hate my job at Target." I'm sorry to hear that. Listen, there's no shame right now, anytime, in getting a paycheck to feed your family. So, first of all, let go of any shame. Second of all, I believe you. I have been in jobs that I hate. You gotta find one thing you like about it. And if you're working at Target right now, one thing that you can like about it is that you're feeding people. You are giving people absolutely essential things. I shop at Target for groceries and household goods and disinfectant and toilet paper when I can find it. You are really doing something very important right now. And as a frontline worker, you're making it possible for me to keep my family safe and fed. So thank you. So maybe you can get behind that and tell people you're making sure people have food and household goods to keep their family fed and safe right now, even though you hate your job. Unfortunately, when you're looking for work and you're worried about money and you're starting to feel desperate, it is so easy to slip into that negativity thing. And I'm sorry, but it's just going to hurt you. So find a safe place one on one with a friend to vent and dump and get the anger and the negativity and the fear off your chest. But when you're networking, take a deep breath. Watch Michael McIntyre. My husband sends me comedian clips every morning to put me in a better place. I don't watch the news in the morning anymore because it flattens me. It freaks me out. So I laugh and I text and I talk to people who make me happy. So whatever you got to do to fill the gas tank and set the negativity aside and push forward. All right. Here's the deal. I promised that I was going to tell you the two things people really want to know about you. Are you ready? Here they are. The year was 1977. I weighed less. I had no gray hair and I was a brand new rookie recruiter. There I am in my little $50 suit in my corner office as a recruiter, trying to get you to answer the phone and respond to my emails. Again, I was about to get fired. So my boss kicked me out and sent me to this big, intimidating networking event. And I saw one of you earlier who said, I'm an introvert. What do I do if I'm really nervous meeting new people? You do it anyway. I walked into a room that looked like this. People who were 20 and 30 years older than me, laughing, having fun. I was in my little $50 suit. They were in $1,000 beautifully tailored suits, and I didn't know what to say. I felt ridiculous. And to make matters worse, I'd been there about 15 minutes, and this dude walked up to me who was about 6'2", and I'm 5'2", so that alone was intimidating. And he looked down on me with his hands on his hips, just like this. And you know what he said to me? He didn't say, "Hi, how are you?" He didn't say, "How can I help you?" He didn't say, "How's the artichoke dip?" This dude said to me, "Who are you and why should I care?" What a jerk, right? I mean, that is what I thought. I thought, that is not what I thought initially. I have to tell you, I broke out in a sweat in one armpit and on my forehead. I freaked out. I was mortified because he didn't ask me, "What do you do?" I could have said, "I'm a recruiter." What do you do? Who are you and why should I care? So I just fell apart. I burst into a cold sweat. I mumbled something and I said, "Oh, I'm really thirsty. I'm going to go get a drink." And I ran away and I didn't get a drink. I went into the bathroom and I sat on the toilet for about 5 minutes. And then I went in the mirror and I put water on my face and I tried to pull myself together, but I couldn't. So I went and snuck out the back door, got in my car, and went home. And then I got angry. On the way home, once I got over the shame and embarrassment, I got angry and I was like, what a jerk. Why did he ask me that? Anyway, the emotional roller coaster on my drive home, and quite frankly, for the next few weeks. But I've never forgotten the guy. His name is Bob. And to tell you the truth, I've been looking for him for the last 22 years, trying to find him because now I would love if he asked me those questions. In the end, those two questions were a gift because he asked me the two things that nobody else is going to be rude enough or brazen enough to ask me. I think he might have just been having fun. He might have been just as bored as I was. I don't think he meant to humiliate me. I think he just really wanted to know, who are you and why should I care? Here are the other questions that people ask you when they're really trying to figure out those two things. Where do you come from? Do we have anything in common? What do you do for a living? How can I help you? Can you help me? And is there any reason that I should stand here and keep talking to you? Is there any reason that I should respond to you on LinkedIn? These are the questions people are asking when they ask you any of these questions. There's actually a term for this. It was coined, I think, in the 1950s. It's called homophily. People like people who are like them. Now, before you go down that discrimination thing and think, oh, yep, I know it. Men don't want to talk to me because I'm a woman. Muslims don't want to talk to me because I'm Lutheran. Whites don't want to talk to me because I'm African American. Before you assume that this is where discrimination goes, yes, discrimination is the ugly extreme of this. But usually, people are just trying to find something in common with you. Did you go to the same high school? Do you live in the same town? That's why we ask at the top of the webinar, where do you live? Common ground. That's what they most want to find in the first 30 seconds is common ground. So how do you deliver that? Well, we're going to run through my exercises quickly today. And then you're all going to get my free guide. So I have a guide. Been teaching this for a long time, 12 years, in fact. My guide is called Networking, the First 30 Seconds, How to Craft an Unforgettable Introduction. And I'm giving you the Job Seeker Edition, which works for freelancers and consultants. I promise. I've been coaching freelancers and consultants for 22 years. The Job Seeker Edition is built for you too. So what I'd like you to do for the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes is just absorb what I'm sharing. Take notes on your light bulb moments and just know that when Art sends the follow-up email, you're all going to get a PDF copy of my guide, and you're going to be able to sit down with a nice cold Coke and walk through those exercises and build yourself an unforgettable introduction. I'm going to teach you how to answer these two questions. Who are you and why should I care? So in the guide, I've got a couple of questions for you to answer. Just drink a coffee or a glass of cold water and answer these questions. When you're reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn, you want to look for mutual friends or connections, same hobbies, and a fun fact. If you can come up with a fun fact, I promise you, your networking is going to be so much more fun. So I met a woman named Carol 12 years ago. She's a dragon boat racer. Now, those of you in Duluth probably know what I'm talking about. Apparently, there are dragon boat races in Duluth every summer. I think there are also dragon boat races in the Twin Cities during the Aquatennial. Not this summer, but Carol Ryan is a dragon boat racer. It's a fun fact that she slipped into her personal introduction, and it's 12 years later, and I still remember her first name and her last name, and I can tell you what she does for a living. Very memorable, very fun. So I challenge you to come up with a fun fact that you're willing to share. I own a zebra. His name is Joe. I have never met another person who owns a zebra. So it's fun, it's different, and it's memorable. Hence my company name, Zebra Backwards. It's why I call myself a stripe changer. I have fun with it, and a lot of other people do. Some people don't like me because of it. And that was very painful. Speaking of rejection, I really had to let go of the fact that 30% of the people that meet me are not going to like me, and that's okay. But 30% are going to love my personal brand, and another 30% are going to be a little bit skeptical, but they're going to be curious. So dare to be you. Dare to have a little bit of fun with your personal introduction. Emily used to be a dog trainer for PetSmart, and that is a great conversation starter. Okay, so your exercises in the guide are common ground, kind of helping you find common ground. And now I want you to think about what you do for a living and your target job or project in a different way today. I want you to stop introducing yourself by job title. I want you to think about, all right, what's your job title, your area of expertise, but what do you really do? So the person who hates her job at Target, I'm sorry that you hate your job. Maybe you're a cashier, maybe people are rude, whatever it is. But what do you really do? Maybe you're a cashier at Target, but what you're really doing is helping people get food and household supplies at a time we're in the middle of a crisis. That's what you really do. Maybe what you really do is make somebody's day. I got a coffee at McDonald's a couple of weeks ago at 6 a.m. And that woman who handed me my coffee was so joyful and friendly. She made my day. What do you really do? Okay. Now I'm going to let you in on one of my little secret exercises. I want you to borrow a kid. If you don't have a kid of your own under the age of 12, 10, I want you to borrow somebody else's kid and say, can you help me for a little bit? I want to tell you what I do for work, and I want you to keep asking me questions until you understand it. I call it the kid test. And I literally, when my boys were small, they were 5 and 7. I used to take them to the job club that I run in Eagan, Minnesota, so the Easter Job Transition Group. So this was during the recession. Unemployment was through the roof. Everybody was telling me I'm too old, I'm too female, I'm too minority, I'm too whatever. Nobody's going to hire me. There aren't any jobs. And I was trying to help them understand that it was networking that was getting them stuck. So I put my favorite day, I put my little 5-year-old up on a stool and I said to him, Quibus, I'm going to bring somebody up and they're going to talk about their job. Keep asking questions until you understand what they do for a living. He's like, okay, can I get an ice cream cone afterward? Yes. So, and I'll even put cherries on top for you and whatever you want on it. So anyway, he sat on a stool and a woman came up from the audience and he said, so what's your job? And she said, I help people with activities of daily living. Now, my dad had just had a massive stroke, so I knew what she meant, but 95% of the people in the audience didn't understand, let alone my little 5-year-old. I set my watch 3 minutes, 3 excruciating minutes. By the way, I told the audience they can't save either of them. We just have to let this horrible, hard conversation unfold. It took him 3 minutes to get her to finally say, well, when somebody's in a car accident, I help them learn to walk again. And my son jumped off his stool and said, you mean when my grandpa had a stroke, you could have helped him walk again? And she said, yeah, that's what I mean. And my son literally said, why didn't you say that in the first time? Ah, this is the kid test. It's brilliant. So let's chat. What would you tell a kid that you do for a job? What would you tell a kid? A 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, when they say, what do you do for a living? What would you tell them? While you share, I'm going to jump to number 2. We've talked about who are you? Now we're going to answer the really hard, icky question. Why should I care? Like, why should I respond to your LinkedIn message? Why should I have a Zoom conference call with you? Why should I pick up your phone call? I'm busy. I'm trying to feed my family. Why should I talk to you any further? The secret sauce here is figuring out how to tie what you do for a living into other people's lives. That's what Steve, the supply chain, did by saying, I get your ice cream to your table cold and fresh. That's what that woman did with my son when she said, I help people learn to walk again when they've had an accident. How does what you do affect people's lives? And in the guide that you're going to get via email, here are a couple of questions to help you get there. What do you do? Job title. What's the problem you solve? What's the benefit to a company? And what's the benefit to somebody in their own life? Listen, I do a lot of things. I'm a business owner. I'm a speaker. I'm an author. I'm a coach. I'm a consultant. I'm a lead generator. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter. I'm a daughter-in-law. I'm a lot of things. Who cares? Well, you care this morning. There are 2 things that you care about. I'm a recovering recruiter, which means I actually know what I'm talking about, what it takes to get hired. And I teach people how to get hired 55% faster. That's what you care about. Now, if you lean in and you ask me more, so how do you do that? I teach people how to change their stripes and stand out from the herd. This is the way to answer why should I care? Connect what you do for a living to everybody's lives. Ultimately, you want to get it into a 10-second pitch. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You guys have been sharing them. Christina has a lot of fun, or somebody else does. This is the goal. And in the guide, I give you this thing. What do you really do? And if you can turn it into a bumper sticker, that's brilliant. Now, some of you right now are saying, oh, this sounds really hard. You know what? It is in the beginning. This is why you shouldn't try to do it alone. I want you to get my guide, print it out, take your first stab at it, and then call a friend. Schedule a coffee date and say, I'm going to send you this guide, and let's help each other. Get a job hunt buddy. I said it in my live stream this morning. Grit is important, but a job hunt buddy will double your success as a job seeker. And if you guys make contracts with each other, I'm going to do this exercise. I'm going to finish my 10-second pitch by next Monday. You will triple your job search success. Get a job hunt buddy and go through these exercises together. More great personal introductions. I give you some examples in my guide. Dare to get personal with it. If you really want a personal introduction that's going to resonate with people, I met a triage nurse who was unemployed during the Great Recession, and she's like, nobody's going to hire me. There aren't enough nursing jobs out there. And I helped her get to the personal why so that people could really connect with what she does for a living. And she said, when I was little, my uncle died right in front of me. Nobody in my family knew how to do CPR. And on that day, in that moment, I decided that I wanted to learn how to save people's lives. And that's what I do now. I save people's lives. But she's not a triage nurse in the ER. She actually works, speaking of call centers, she works on a nurse line. She's that first phone call a lot of people make when they're having chest pains at home and they're trying to figure out if they should call the ambulance or just lie down and rest. How's that for a personal introduction? But even better than that, don't even tell people what you do for a living. Ask them a question. So that triage nurse, instead of saying I'm a triage nurse, she says, when somebody asked her, so what do you do for a living? She says, have you ever been at home and felt really sick and wondered if you should just climb in bed or actually go see the doctor? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm the person you call on that nurse line. That is a beautiful way to answer the question, tell me about yourself. Or if this all makes you uncomfortable and gives you hives, you can keep it professional for now. And her professional response to people is, did you know that 10% of 911 calls are life and death situations? I saved my last insurance agency $392,000 in just 6 months by creating a new triage phone script for nurses. Wow, that's pretty cool. All right. Oh, look, Kevin's wife is a triage nurse. Cool, cool, cool. All right. You guys are ready to go craft your own unforgettable introduction. As we wrap things up today, I'm going to share my best kept networking secret. Interested is interesting. This is why the kid test is so powerful. If you get curious like a 4-year-old or you borrow a kid, when you're meeting somebody, not only is your personal introduction going to be interesting and engaging, but you actually shouldn't talk about yourself much at all. The best kept networking secret is to talk just a little bit and get really curious about getting to know that other person. That's the magic. So, key messages today. If you network for that next project, client, or job, you're going to get hired 55% faster. This is that Silk Road Technology study of 13 million applications. All right. Again, networking really works, compelling stats behind it. You have about 10 seconds to grab somebody's interest. They want to know who you are and why they should care. And if you answer those two questions, the rest isn't only easy, it's downright fun. Remember the Faith story? Her first job search 6 months, her second 7 months, her last one 3.5 weeks. The one thing she changed is she started networking, and she started two things. She started networking and she started introducing herself differently. It's not just her. Paul got 2 job offers in 2.5 weeks. Molly got 3 job offers in 2 weeks, making more money and not being on call anymore. There are 3 things that I would like you to do after our talk today. Are you ready? Write these down. Do the exercises in my guide. That's the first thing I want you to do, and I want you to do it by Tuesday of next week. Give yourself a deadline, and you'll triple your success. Do the exercises in my guide with a buddy by Tuesday of next week, and you will triple your job search success. Help beyond a day. All right, so you're going to get my free guide, and it is networking the first 30 seconds. You can go join the online job club. You can join us on June 2nd around ageism. You can take advantage of all the resources online, the hiring events, the resume and interviewing webinars, and so many resources out there to help you. I am going to take questions, and then Art's going to come on and wrap things up for us. So those of you that have to leave, thank you for joining us. Please invite your friends. There's a 3 o'clock today. Push it out on social media. You can go to my LinkedIn account and grab information about it. Actually go to the Career Force Virtual and Interactive Services. Grab that link and just pop it out. Send it to your friends. There's still seats available for 3 p.m. this afternoon. Join us for that ageism one next Tuesday and take advantage of all the other resources. Thanks for joining us. And if you can hang out, I'm here to take your questions. All right. Art is sharing a question that came through a while ago. Thank you, Art. Whoopsie. Questions, Art. I'm scrolling up. What if you don't currently do anything? Do you say what you can do and your skills instead? Thank you so much for this question. Is a teacher still a teacher in July? Yes. This is really hard to wrap your head around if you're unemployed. And I am so thankful to you for asking this question because we should talk about it. I get it. You're uncomfortable saying that I'm a marketing coordinator or I'm a truck driver if you don't have a paycheck right now. But you are a marketing coordinator. You are a truck driver. Is a carpenter still a carpenter if he takes 3 months off? Does a carpenter ever hesitate to say that she's a carpenter if she's on a sabbatical or maternity leave? No, nobody who isn't laid off or furloughed or fired ever hesitates to say what they do for a living. And I need you to get your head wrapped around the fact that you shouldn't hesitate either. You're in between paychecks right now, but that's not important. What's important is what you can do for a company. I know that's hard to wrap your head around. Hey, listen, I don't have a single live on stage speaking gig right now. All of them disappeared. I lost a bunch of speaking gigs and a lot of revenue, but I still tell people I'm a speaker. Now, I'm a speaker online, yes. I still tell people that I'm a keynote speaker and a platform speaker because I want them to remember that when the shutdown is over and companies start hiring platform and keynote speakers again, I want them to know that I do that for a living, even though it's not realistic right now and I'm not getting paid to speak on stages right now. Please let go of the discomfort that you're in between paychecks and just focus on what you can do and what you're going to do for that next employer. It's a mindset thing and it's going to take practice. And if you have to put notes up on the wall in front of you to do it, do it. I had a guest on my live stream on Friday, George Murray. Wonderful story. You can go and watch it on my website at arbez.com. So George got laid off twice in, I think, 3 years. And the first time he was laid off, it took him 13 months to find a job. And the next time it took him half that much time. And he said one of the big things that he did differently was he worked on his attitude and his mindset. He'd been showing up and being negative and sharing his frustration and his worry with people, and people weren't liking that very much. So every single day, he had a positive affirmation app and a meditation app. And if you look at him, he's a grown man, VP, operations, big job title, successful career, and yet he needed daily affirmations. And he said it changed everything for him. So that might really help you with this mindset, worry, and all of it. All right. So practice interviews. Oh, Ashanta. Hi, Ashanta. Ashanta is offering mock interviewing practice. Wonderful. Man, you guys, on the hiring side of the desk, a candidate who comes in who's practiced interviewing is a dream. And they always get bumped to the top of the list, even when they aren't the strongest skill set. Let me say that again. People who practice interviewing get put to the top of the candidate list over people who are more qualified for the job because they're ready for the interview. They don't freak out. They don't ramble. They don't clam up. They handle the questions with ease. They are ready to answer those tough questions, and it's just a dream to interview them. And unfortunately, if you're easy to interview and they're able to get all their questions answered, you're going to get to the front of the line. Please take our, so Ashanta, are you a counselor with Career Force? Are you a recruiter? I love that you're offering this. Also, interviewing help. Video interviewing is tricky. You want to talk about freaking out over an interview. Now you add a camera, it gets hard. You can go watch the replays, follow that link that Art sent. And I think it was the first one. Yeah. So at the end of May, we did a job club on video interviewing, and you can go watch the replay at the virtual career services, Career Force virtual services. And I've got a 20-page, I think it's 20 pages, guide on how to prepare and even how to do a mock video interview. There you go. All right, other questions? Oh, my kid-friendly, any suggestions on when your kid-friendly version of your job isn't actually your job? Yeah, oh my gosh, absolutely. So you're a pediatric nurse practitioner. Job kids get as okay, so I think Katie is saying, is it okay to say You work in a so pediatric nurse practitioner. I think what Katie is saying is that kids don't understand what a nurse practitioner is. No, they don't. A lot of adults don't either, for what that's worth. If you say nurse, they don't know nurse practitioner versus nurse. So I'm a nurse and I'm a pediatric nurse. I help kids get healthy. That's a great way to talk about it. Um, do you know that recycling your phone is life of decision for Gorilla? Do you know that recycling your phone is life of decision for Gorilla? I am the person you talk to. I don't know what that means, but I'm intrigued. How do you prepare for a 20 to 30-minute phone interview? Michael, same way you prep for a video interview. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Aside from the technology and lighting and camera and space, aside from the camera and technology aspects, the way you prep for a video interview is exactly the same way you prep for a phone interview and an in-person interview. And so my video interviewing guide is really going to help you prep for that phone screen. Renee says college grads just looking for first job. I'm assuming you're telling me that you are a college grad and you are just looking for a first job. What should you do? Renee, everything I'm talking about today. When I first launched Arbez 14 years ago, I had been recruiting technology professionals and marketing and creative professionals and salespeople. Those are the four disciplines that I had experience recruiting. And I started Arbez and I only focused on helping those four categories because I didn't think I could help anybody else. Silly me, I didn't think I knew really a lot about getting jobs in other categories. Well, I can tell you 14 years later, 12 years of speaking to over 130,000 people, launching a job club that's still going strong 12 years later, I can tell you everything that I'm teaching you today works. Whether you are a new college grad with no work experience, or a chief economist, or a police officer, or a truck driver, I'll tell you a little story. When I was a new speaker, this was 12 years ago, and I was still nervous and intimidated, and I'd break out in a sweat. I'd just freak out before I went on stage. I was really nervous, but I was proud that I was helping all of these people who were unemployed because it was during the recession. So I dragged my dad, who'd had a couple of strokes and walked with a walker. I invited him to come and see me speak. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. Didn't get a lot of attention. Mother liked her Gallo wine, tough childhood. Suffice it to say, I didn't get a lot of attention from my parents growing up. And so I thought, I'm proud of what I'm doing. I want my dad to see what I do for a living. And I was teaching LinkedIn. So I took him to one of my LinkedIn presentations, and I thought my dad would come away, even though he couldn't talk very well, his mind was pretty sharp. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little embarrassed to tell you this. I kind of couldn't wait for daddy to see that I'm, pretty smart about this technology and online networking stuff. So he sat through my 2-hour workshop and we got back in the car and he was grinning from ear to ear. Thank you very much. My dad was actually proud of me. But then he looked at me and he said, so what's wrong with all these people? Why don't they understand that if you want a job, you just got to talk to people? Why is it so hard for them to all to understand that? That's how I got all my jobs. Well, lo and behold, my dad was absolutely right. We're getting caught up with all the romance of how easy it is to find people, and we're forgetting that for thousands of years, people have gotten jobs just by talking to people at every level, from politicians to doctors. That's why 80% of people get their jobs through networking. It's just about talking to people. So that was kind of a long answer to your question about new college grads. Yes, Renee, this does work for them. Okay, Andrea is trying to make sure she doesn't get stuck in a niche. Ooh, Andrea, thank you this is a great question for us to wrap up on. I feel your worry. And Andrea, I was very worried about getting stuck in a niche when I was a recruiter because I worked for a global IT staffing firm. And we hired everything from programmers to project managers, business analysts, software testers, instructional designers. So I had all these jobs to fill. And my boss kept giving me the script and sitting in my office while I made cold calls. And he said, pick a job for the day that you want to work on. And I said, but I have 40 I'm trying to fill. He said, pick a niche for today, software testing, programming, whatever it is. And I said, but, and he said, who's older and wiser? You. All right, do it. Well, I wanted to be successful as a recruiter, so I did it. I picked a niche of the day. And every person I called that day, I just told them about one very concrete thing. And when I'd get somebody on the phone and they'd say, well, I'm not a software tester. Oh, really? Well, what is it that you do? And all of a sudden, the conversation went from not a software tester to I'm a project manager. Well, you don't say. We actually hire a lot of project managers. Would you like me to tell you about a couple of opportunities we have right now? Bam! From one niche, flip to the other. So the reason getting niche is so powerful is that it opens the conversation so that they're leaning in instead of running away from you. And I promise you, people are smart enough, most people are smart enough to take a niche and get it to that other level. So for instance, Steve, the ice cream man, got another job in supply chain with a product that was a manufactured, not food, non-perishable. I can't remember what it was, but he got a job not in the perishable foods industry. I know it's scary, and if you need a paycheck, you're really worried about getting niche. I don't know what else to say to you except, and I hated it when my parents told me this, but you just got to trust me. Don't just trust me. Go look at the statistics. Try it for a week. Get niche for a week and see what happens. Rich Stromback. I just want to wrap things up today with kind of a thought about now I've filled your head with a lot of tactical things to do to become more effective as a networker. Now I'm going to flip to the other side and say, relax. The most important thing for you to do when you're talking to somebody is just find common ground, see them as a human being. Remember, even if they look intimidating or sound intimidating or look unfriendly, they put their pants on one leg at a time. And right now, during coronavirus, they are scared and they are worried and they are trying to keep their families safe too. So do my exercises, get a 10-second pitch, get niche, and then let it all go and just have some fun getting to know some people. Get curious like a 4-year-old. And Rich said, everybody gets this wrong. They worry so much about looking right and sounding right, they end up becoming completely forgettable. And he's having a ball just being himself. I am too. I was terrified to call myself a stripe changer and name my company Zebra backwards, but you know what? It's me. I like to have fun at work, and I owned it and I stepped into it. And after 15 times of saying it out loud, it started to become easier and easier. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn the baton over to Art, and he's going to wrap it up and tell you what to expect with a follow-up and how to join the next webinar next week and the resume and interviewing webinar. Art, thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine. Just a couple of things. All of the material that Catherine mentioned today, the slide deck, the free guide that she had talked about, will be sent by the end of the day today. By Thursday afternoon, I will have the video from this presentation uploaded. Just a couple of reminders. If you are looking for a resume review, you can reach out to your local CareerForce location and ask them for a resume review. I'll include a link that has, or excuse me, a document that has all 50 locations' contact information. I'll also be sending you the registration information for tomorrow's interview class and Thursday's resume class, as well as the final Job Club presentation, which is next Tuesday and deals with ageism and job search over 40. Thank you everyone for coming today, and I wish you the best of luck in your job search.